Well, you do both of them.
Hey folks, it's 7 o'clock, so I want to start the meeting and just go through a couple quick PowerPoint slides to get some information out to you. I want to thank both Bill and Steve for coming out for the TSP update, and also Janel Jospehson. Got a few extra speakers that we're going to bring in just for some brief updates and announcements. But what I do want to do is just kind of push some information out on some different random strange meetings that have been showing up. This lady named Wynn McKillop for House District 26 is hosting a social justice party, and it's going to be August 4th. I also want to let you know that one of the strange places that's very different from social justice that I've been showing up at is Cascade Policy Institute. I was there earlier today and got a copy of a 1998 North-South light rail corridor study from 1998. It's just kind of some really amazing stuff that they've got archived here. They have some free information, and what I'm pitching here is their policy picnics. And if you need more information on that, just go to cascadepolicy.org. The Aloha Business Association has a meeting coming up on July 11th, and they also are sponsoring a concert in Arnold Park, 6 to 8 p.m. on July 18th, and an Aloha Football Jamboree on August 24th. So AlohaBusinessAssociation.com is where you get additional information about that. And I think there's also a Wendy's event either going on today. Victor, do you know something about that?
Yeah, I actually do. I have a flyer for it if anybody's interested. We're the fundraiser for Love Inc. So from 4 to 8, the percentage of the proceeds of all the burgers you eat go to Love Inc. Our offices are on 185th and Farmington, right there at the west side of Community Church.
So if somebody buys something within the next hour?
No, on Thursday.
Oh, Thursday, okay.
Yeah, so if you have any questions about Love Inc., let me know and I'll.
Which Wendy's? Our Wendy's?
Our Wendy's right there.
Right here by 198?
Yeah, 197.
Cool, thanks, Victor. We just wrapped up a lot of legislative stuff down in Salem, and a couple of our reps are holding follow-ups to the latest session. So Greenlick and Parker are doing a town hall. I don't think they technically represent anything within CPO6, but they've been very friendly to my requests for information. Let's see. This, the Hillsborough Airport History Project kind of popped up on my radar, just because the Hillsborough Airport is very controversial with lead pollution
And jobs.
Yeah, and jobs and helicopters.
And student pilots.
Yeah. So I'm not going to get into the controversy about that, but I'm kind of soft-selling something that I'm trying to get started at the CPO later on this year, and that's to perpetuate the Aloha Historical Society. And what I want to do is just let you know that Anthony and I have been working on that. Beaverton Historical Society is interested in sponsoring the Aloha Historical Society, so there's a web domain and stuff going on behind the scenes, and I think that really dovetails very nicely with what Janel Jospehson is going to tell us about later on today. So keep an eye out for that on the 13th of August. Another legislative wrap-up that's more germane to this area is Barker and Haas. And I think that's going to be at Beaverton City Library on July 17th. That one's coming up just close to a week now. Ben Unger, he's doing one also on the 17th, 6 p.m. Forest Grove. And I think he's got a little chunk of CPO6, not much. Actually, he doesn't, I don't think he has any.
Forest Grove, yeah.
Okay, I was wrong, but it's somebody else's
legislature isn't against the state law, so.
I'll tell you what, Ben Unger picks up the phone and answers my questions, so he gets this. And sir, I got a chair for you right over here. Come on, go sit down. One of the big announcements has been percolating through the Committee for Citizen Involvement, and there's a air quality permit for DEQ that's going to get issued, renewed, or somehow reviewed. It's going to be in this room on July 15th, so it's coming up here very shortly. There's a URL. If you just Google DEQ permit or DEQ retail permit, you'll get the information on that. But there's so many emails that came through with so many different meetings coming up so quickly. I just thought I'd put it into a PowerPoint and just start shoving them at you and say, hey, it's coming up. And if this is coming at you too fast, circle back with me and I'll get you the information later on. THPRD asked for me to push this one to this group on July 24th for an hour at the Hazeldale Public Park. We're having a meeting about Nature Reveal, Discovering Nature Through Art and Interpretive Sign Network Bond Project. So I think that's less important than some of the other ones we've had, but they really, we're really anxious to get some citizen input on that. One that Anthony and I are involved in, thanks to the Washington County Board of Commissioners, who appointed a couple of us to the Cultural Coalition of Washington County. Anthony and I and several other people help decide grants that go to arts projects in Washington County. And we're having a little wing ding up at Jenkins Estate. And is it the 24th? I think it's July 24th.
It's really fun, and usually there's a couple of art groups or theatrical groups or some musicians who will provide some great entertainment as part of the program.
So I'm doing the sound system, so we're going to have a little bit of bump and dance. And,
I'll be there.
yeah. One thing that's really contentious and it's created a little bit of conflict that I want to briefly tell you about in my life is that South Cougar Mountain, 546 acres, was annexed in December to City of Beaverton. It's driving phone traffic to me, it's driving concerns, and I find myself in conflict with City of Beaverton. I actually escalated where I got shoved by a City of Beaverton staff member who put herself in reverse and backed into me while I was holding a video camera. And I find that to be very awkward. I think we should have civil discussions when it goes to the physical violence. It's embarrassing. But if there's an encore of the fireworks, it could be happening Saturday, July 13th from 9 a.m. to noon at Shoals Heights Elementary, where they're going to have another occasioning workshop. So I'm really shocked by the amount of bad press in the Oregonian. And for your information, Anna Morum, who's an Oregonian reporter, will be here about 8 o'clock. So we'll have some press here to cover a lot of part of our meeting. But the Oregonian's editorial review board just land-based with the City of Beaverton for their densities, and I want to stay out of the politics of that, but it's really contentious, and the CPO is a great place for you to get information about that. City Hillsborough has postponed their zoning ordinance amendments and comprehensive plan amendments to the South Hillsborough Community Planning Area Transportation Plan amendments. Whatever that means, what we were supposed to have June 26th has been kicked down the curve to August 14th. Steve Lawrence, do you have any backstory on this? Can you give me like 30 seconds update? You know, was Don Overmont just way too busy and asked for this?
Yeah, it was just delayed because there's just too much going on, and so it's scheduled again for August.
Isn't there too many people that would have come in June and not as many people in August?
I'm not sure. I think there was just too much on Don's plate to do it all. I was a little dissatisfied with the blurb that came out in the CPO6 newsletter regarding it, in that it didn't mention anything outside of South Hillsborough's community plan area for being part of the transportation discussion that will go on before the City of Hillsborough Planning Commission in August. And we were promised, as part of the Aloha Reedville plan, that there would be a mitigation and we've worked with Commissioner Schouten on this mitigation plan. And I hope it's just because it was omitted and not because there isn't any.
It'd be just omitted, and talk to me so I can get what you want in the next newsletter.
Okay. No, it was just omitted from the way it was.
Just not knowing that's information and context and how what you need there. So talk to me and we'll get that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Aloha Library. Many of you don't know that the Aloha Library has multiple locations. Over on TV Highway behind the
grocery store.
Yeah, the Latino grocery store, we've got an annex that hello Pat Mayberry. We have an annex where we do Amazon book sale collections. So it's not a retail checkout location, but a lady named Maxine really does a remarkable job of working through donated books that we sell a very small percentage of for some pretty decent money to fund the library on our Amazon online store. So we're doing monthly book drives, and the next are August 3rd and September 7th. They run 4 hours. You just show up either at the library, preferably at the library, but also at our annex location. And this has really turned out to be a great way for us to fund the library until we can get plugged into the tax levy. But this really speaks to how the community is saying, we're making this happen. And it's just really exciting to, so I was just telling Commissioner Schouten, I made a joke. It's like at our open library. Just, it's almost been a year. We have a library, and it started here. And thanks to you guys who stepped up to make it happen. I want to remind you in advance that October. Oh yes.
Could you give the address of the annex?
Absolutely, 178th and TV Highway.
But they prefer the books to be taken to the regular library.
Oh, no, we know where that is, but maybe not everybody knows where exactly the location is.
Yeah, there's a stereo shop, I can't think of what.
Yeah, and there's the,
Cedar West shopping mall.
It's kind of between the stereo shop and the Mexican drive-through fast food restaurant.
Is it right there near Bob Z's plants?
It's the
Further
next
down.
block further down.
Okay.
there's a Subway sandwich place.
I didn't want to say that even, yeah. By the smoke shop.
Do you know where the 7-Eleven is on TV
No,
Highway?
I do,
Oh.
yeah, but I just wanted to make public where the annex is, and also where is the library located. I know where the library is, I'm part of the volunteer.
Yes, you are. The library is right off of Farmington Road. It's almost directly across from Mountain View Junior High. So I think the street address, what is the street address? 17683 Southwest Farmington? I'd go with that.
Yes, that's fine.
As we move to our annual meeting and election officers in October, one of the things I'd like to push is a strategic plan for CPO6. What do you guys want to get done? Because after talking with CPO1, they're like, you guys do what? And they're just in awe of the stuff that we get done. And I'd like to kind of organize that more into a plan where we actually think ahead and strategize. And I'd like to thank Anthony Mills for giving me some great suggestions on that I'll bring up at a future meeting about how we can market, organize, and message what we do here more effectively. I had a request from Catherine Harrington to come in and talk with us in September, and I just got an email earlier today, and she wants to just give us a brief update, so that's in the works. Just wrapping up here real briefly, there's a land use list that I post to our Facebook page, so facebook.com/CPO6 Aloha is our Facebook page, and LCDC has a news clipping service that I find immensely helpful. So if you're a land use geek, it's a really good thing to subscribe to. Another quick announcement, I don't know how it happened, but I'm now the president of the Washington County Public Affairs Forum, and I apologize in advance because I'm going to have a lot bigger access to a lot cooler speakers, and I'm going to try to get them to visit both the forum and here, and I think it's going to be a good thing for everybody. I just got the cable access time announcements, and that's when the forum programming is going to run. Our March meeting got picked up by cable access, where we have the debate with the school district candidates and the water district candidates, and cable access ran 28-minute, 30-second spots over and over again. They couldn't get enough of it, and I thought this is dry single camera stuff, and they ate it up. Becky Jarvis, would you be so kind to give us a 2-minute update on the Aloha Days?
Absolutely. This summer, we had a volunteer, Janel Jospehson, step up to coordinate the Aloha Days. It's a continuation of last summer. We'd like to make it an annual event, an Aloha community event. It is being coordinated in conjunction with the fundraiser for the Aloha Community Library. August 16th and 17th, there's going to be a used book sale in the old video store. And then on Saturday, August 17th, we're going to have some community vendors, government nonprofits, some artisans, some local businesses that will have vendors there. We're also working on some entertainment. And we're hoping, Janel, do we still have the bike shop doing bike tune-ups?
As far as I know.
Okay, so local bike shop doing bike tune-ups. And so I have some flyers to pass around if you know of anyone that might be interested.
When does that start? 15th and go through 17th?
The 16th and 17th. 16th and 17th is the library book sale, and then August 17th, which is a Saturday from 10 to 4, is the vendor community fair.
Okay, thank you.
Do you announce that somewhere so that it's available to the public?
We are working on the press releases coming out and through the social
Yeah.
media. And, we're just, like I said, we're getting ready to announce it on Beaverton Resource and Business Directory Guide, so it will be in there and through the Oregonian and other social media.
Cal, want to give us an update? Tell us where you've been, what you've been doing. Plug in.
Okay.
Put that in your pocket.
All right. Very briefly, you all know that I pledged to ride across the country. Let's see, we started on April 30th. The End Polio Now Bicycle Odyssey was what I'll call a success. My son and I left on April 30th, and we eventually ended up in Louisville, Kentucky, 2,901 pedal cycle miles later. It was, people said it was awesome. More often than not, I thought it was tiresome. One of the ways I marked our progress was, as we were in Nebraska, for example, every town was marked by a silo, and they're all about 10 miles apart from one another. And I'll tell you what, at 12 miles an hour, at 6 miles an hour, depending on the wind, that silo can sometimes never seems like it's going to get there. But it was really a tremendous experience, life-changing. I had sought $1 a mile, and I'm exceeding that by about 2 or 3 cents, which is pretty good. So of the 2,901 miles, I'm expecting to raise over $3,000 to end polio now. Just briefly, a brief history, there are 4 countries now in the world that have polio. There were 3 when I started, but then a girl in Somalia was discovered with it. They believe because of the region and the wars and the poverty going on, that might be part of it. But like I said, it was life-changing, and really I'd do it again. It was that much fun. The other thing I wanted to talk about is Friday, July the 25th. We are inviting anyone who is interested to pedal to the fair. The Washington County Fair starts on Wednesday, I believe. Is that correct?
Thursday.
Thursday? Okay, thank you. That's right. But see, there's a fly-in, so we don't want to detract from that. So Friday night at 6 o'clock, we'll be leaving the Washington County Public Services Building. It's about a 2.5-mile pedal. If you don't have a bike, I have resources. Okay, so no excuse. It's really an easy ride, and we ought to have fun. We'll have either beer, soda, or ice cream when we get there. Okay. So, pardon? July 25th, Friday, 6 o'clock, Public Services Building, Washington County parking lot. Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
Hey, Al, I'm going to ask you to give us an update. One of the organizations that's really been supportive of many things, including the Aloha Library, community in general, is Portland West Side Rotary Club. What's going on with Rotary Club?
Well, what's going on with
It's
the
90
Rotary Club?
seconds for Rotary.
Well, we are probably we're a very small club. We're down to about 9 members now, but we are one of the most active in the district. I take my role after what I do after what Eric does. We're small but mighty. We have 4 Interact clubs, which are the high school level. No other club has that. The End Polio Now campaign, like I said, we went, I don't know, I guess we didn't. I did it, but in other words, the club supported me on it. They paid for my plane fare to come back, so they're really behind what we're doing here. Rotary is a service organization, and we believe that while service won't get you into heaven, right? If we believe that, it's a good thing to do while you're here on earth. So thank you.
Al, thank you for many, many things. I really appreciate that. Also, I want to personally thank you for being our bike ed rep and manning that committee for CPO6. That's work, and thank you for taking that. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What I'd like to do now is invite Deputy Olson to come up and give us an update on what's going on with Washington County Sheriff's Office. And come on up this way. If you don't mind, I'm going to wire you up. You're on TV. Awkward, huh? All right, I'm sure you got a spot for that. Take it away.
I'm gonna start those that way.
You betcha.
So, good, something else to put on my belt. I'll just hold it, I suppose. Let's see. Kind of, you know, you might get tired of hearing, but kind of business as usual. One of the things we are noticing more with the warmer weather, people are leaving their car windows down at nighttime, and garage doors open, and so we're starting to see a little bit of pickup in people taking stuff out of cars and garages. Typically in the wintertime, they'd go just try door handles and whatever's open. They'd open the instead of breaking in. You know, it's pretty easy just to open your car door and take whatever. But now with the warmer weather and windows being left down, they're starting to, well, it's just getting even easier to take stuff out of your car. So just be cognizant of that. Garage doors open, close them at night. Other than that, not really much else to speak of. We're still doing the graffiti stuff and you know, just trying to manage our districts. So.
What about that lady that shot up 162nd and Blanton? 63rd and Blanton? Didn't we have a shooting on Blanton at like 162nd, 163rd? Know anything about that?
Recently?
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
A shooting.
Lady, I think lady was coming out of her house.
Oh yeah, that one. I was on that. Yeah, she. We're not really sure why. I think she was pretty liquored up, and she fired 3 rounds outside of her house, or she was in her living room, and so the initial deputy got the call of some people. Hey, we just got home, and there's a bullet hole through our window in the closet, and so he kind of lined up the holes. I think it's coming from that house there. So he got another unit, and they went around to check on that house. And as they were walking up to it, another shot rang out. So we kind of, you know, the cavalry came, and we kind of locked it down. And you know, we were concerned that, you know, was she? You know, we didn't know what she was doing. Trying to commit suicide and trying 3 times, or, you know, we didn't know. So, but we had to evacuate all the surrounding houses because, as you know, they're fairly close, and if, you know, a random bullet comes in the house, well, that's no good. So we finally got everybody out and got some TAC team guys there with our bear, parked it in the driveway, and basically loud-hailed for about 3 hours. And then she finally came out, saying she was asleep and didn't know what was going on. But I had seen her at least an hour earlier peek out the window. So, but anyway, she was pretty drunk and really wouldn't. You know, I don't remember any of that. I don't remember doing that. So we arrested her for reckless endangerment and unlawful use of a weapon and all that stuff. And so she's going to be going to trial here, I think, pretty quick. But so yeah, that was that big thing. Oh yeah. Actually, she stole that. She stole the gun and a laptop and an iPad from her ex earlier that morning. So, but it'll be kept because it's evidence. So it'll be kept until after the trial, and then he'll get his stuff back. But no, because she stole it from him. He lives up in Bethany, I think. But yeah, so we had a little. I don't know if we had a DUI crash last night up 185 Riggert. I don't think you saw that, but some guy stole his sister's car. Was drunk, but he was so drunk he kind of crashed right there at the intersection. So he was pretty easy pickings to get and arrest and that kind of thing. But that's kind of the biggest stuff that's going on lately.
You guys got any questions?
does unspecified burglaries mean on this neighborhood watch report?
Oh, those are just kind of random. We don't really know the motive. It's just kind of a random report as opposed to like a home invasion or that type of thing. Mm-hmm.
How often do you patrol the area? Do you just go like daily around or?
I used to come to these all the time because I was in the 6th district, which is south of TV, but now I'm in the north, which is 5. But yeah, the deputies, when we're not responding to calls, then yeah, we're just kind of meandering through the neighborhoods and Shaw and Blanton and Alexander and that kind of stuff, just looking for bad guys, people doing stuff bad or that type of thing. We've been, let's see, well, I guess fire can, we've been helping them out on, there's been a couple fires, I think, so we'll help do traffic control and stuff like that. Yes, sir.
What do you, I see some of these are theft from vehicle, but then some are theft. And I'm trying to figure out what that means. Is that like taking someone?
So the vehicle obviously is involved in that, and then regular theft like, they stole a bicycle off my porch, those type of things.
There's no personal confrontation.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Any other questions?
We had a very robust response in the 41, which is the Cooper Mountain area. We had someone who apparently went off their meds, and I think there was about 8 or 9 response vehicles, including a standby ambulance. This is about 3 weeks ago. So I was kind of surprised by how long it took. It took about 24 hours to track this juvenile down who assaulted a parent. And I listened to the police scanner activity, and it was just kind of an oddball question, but I was kind of surprised by the sheriff's department not being able to ping or locate the cell phone that this perpetrator was using, because he was ambulatory, he was mobile.
Mm-hmm.
But it was real interesting to kind of watch you guys and WACA navigate with the cell phone. Do you use cell phone? Can you call WACA and have it track a cell phone?
Yes, they can. They have the ability to do that, but in my experience, it's pretty iffy. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. There was one winter, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years ago, where we were looking for an older gentleman, and there was snow on the ground. He was an elderly man, had just gone missing, and so they were pinging the cell phone, and it was like 160th Shaw area, and we never found him. Well, he was found the next day, like 185 Farmington area. So, way off as far as, we're concerned, not even close to where he was. So, sometimes it works pretty good, but a lot of times it doesn't. So it's not a foolproof thing by any means to try to locate somebody. But, because WAC will get, we'll get calls, somebody's calling in a domestic or maybe a welfare check, hey, I'm hurt type of thing. But all they get is the cell phone, and so all they get is a Latin long. And we'll kind of go in that area, and it's like, yeah, I got nothing here. We don't know. And then like a few minutes, okay, the address comes back in the Rock Creek area. Okay, well, all right. So then they'll send those cars to that. But
so technology doesn't always work for you guys. It's good to have, but it's
exactly.
not always perfect.
Yeah, it's a tool we'll use. We'll use the tools we have, but yeah, sometimes we don't.
Are they able to contact the carrier to get like the billing address, or do you need a court order? To get
Yeah, the companies usually want to see a warrant. So, it's kind of hard to get sometimes. Yeah.
Well, how about some applause for Deputy Olson?
Thanks.
We really appreciate the support. Thank you so much. Thanks for bringing us those updates. What I'd like to do is introduce Walker Allison and guests from Felton Valley Fire and Rescue. And ma'am, I don't know your name yet, but I want to thank you for turning on the air conditioner in the adjacent room. For that, we are, and also, as I'm buying Walker a little bit of time to come up here, both of you guys can come up here. Walker has been an outstanding partner. He's proactively reached out in order to partner with this group and make sure that we get timely updates, and that is taking me on ride-alongs. So I'm showing up at Aloha High School, and they're like, we thought we graduated you in 1985. Get out. So which one of you are going to talk?
He wants to talk, but I wanted to take a minute to introduce myself.
Then I'm going to plug you in
perfect.
because
Great.
you're famous now. You're on TV.
I'm on TV, awesome.
Introduce yourself.
Okay, well, my name's Elisa Kaur, and I'm the new Public Affairs Officer for TBFNR up here in the North District, or North part of the district. And so you may have worked with Cassandra Holden in the past, and she's gone down to our central operating center. So I just wanted to take a moment as I'm getting around to meet everyone and introduce myself. And I understand that Captain Malson comes frequently to give updates, so if there's other things that I can do to provide information or help with anything, let me know, and I look forward to working with you all in the future. So thank you. Thanks for letting me introduce myself. Well, so we've been wearing black bands on our shields through, I believe, today, in honor of the firefighter that was from West Lynn that was killed in Arizona. And we'll be wearing them, I think, now until his memorial on Saturday. So, yeah.
I'm missing mine because we've been running calls all day and I've been dropping some things off. Thank you.
Yeah. So you came from Legacy Health?
Right. So I came from Legacy Health, and prior to that, I was at the city of Portland for many, many years, and so, yeah.
And some of the things you would do in your new position would be what? So we can sort of answer some questions for folks here.
Sure. So the public affairs officers at TBFNR have sort of a wide variety of job duties. So I'll be doing incident response for public information purposes, and I'll be part of that team. And then I also work on proactive media outreach, as well as go to a number of the task force meetings that go on in Beaverton and Aloha, and we'll be engaging with the business groups and the neighborhood groups and that type of thing. Also representing TBFNR's interests in development and annexation projects as they apply up here, a number of them that Chief Hoffman is orienting me to, like the South Cooper Mountain development and the South Hillsborough development, and so a number of things that are going on in the north area. There's obviously a lot of development going on up here, and so anyway.
So anything I can firsthand help one of our citizens with, which I generally try to do, as Eric knows, and we've worked together in the past, I'll reach out to other agencies, and internally, I'll reach out within the resources within the department. And many of you probably have worked with Cassandra or Lisa Fakimo, who might be here tonight and stuff.
And I'll leave a stack of my business cards at the back if anyone would like to take those and connect. If there's any other questions I can answer that come up, or and before future meetings.
Question: are you working in this facility?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
In past years, there's neighborhoods where there's property owners where the grass is 3 feet, 4 feet tall. And I know we've had requests in the past for the fire department to contact those property owners because they're a fire waiting to happen, especially during the summertime. In particular, one property that every year we have problems with is the old Rio's Ribs, where it goes from TV Highway to Alexander and then
174.
Yeah, the bushes and stuff are about 3 feet tall now next to the street.
So, first, I'll go ahead and go that one. This might be new territory for you, but so historically, and with that property specifically, as you know, last year and the year prior, I've worked closely with Eric, and I worked with Ty, Darby, and some of our fire marshals, and with the county as well. And we've had successes, I feel, in the past with being able to mitigate what the extent of our abilities have been, which has been weed control nuisance issues as well, which is something that's very important to me because I recognize the importance of that in your community. So last year, we were able to ensure the security of the fencing, the vegetation, and some other nuisance issues. This year, I believe, and I'm speaking anecdotally, but I believe everything there is slated for being cleared, and the clearing has already started. And I believe permits have already gone through for demolition on that site. That's the best information I have currently for that.
Okay, so you're talking about the one remaining building on the property?
Yes, that property, there's been permits for demolition and for clearing out that site that have been granted. It's my understanding anecdotally. But as Eric knows, I'll firsthand follow up with anything, and I'm happy to go down there firsthand.
That would be great, because like I said, every summer we can, just since the property owner's not there.
And we logged a considerable amount of time trying to build that relationship. And if you recall, I feel like maybe you were here last year, or if anyone was here last year, we had been, well, I personally was working really hard hoping to use it as a training site and then to facilitate the demolition for them. And we weren't able to broker that deal with the property owners. And so the best we were able to do is enforce the nuisance issues and the security issues. But last time I inquired in it, I was told a permit had been accepted and pushed through for clearing the property and demolition.
But you were talking more specifically about the brush behind that.
The brush that's next to the street, because, you know, I drive along Alexander, you see someone toss a cigarette butt out the window, which you're not supposed to do, but they do it all the time, and
Absolutely.
that's a fire waiting, and especially since it's next to an apartment complex.
Yeah. As Eric knows, all you have to do for any nuisance thing is get in touch with me directly, which
So
I
if
always
it's a
keep my
fire
information.
nuisance, it should go to the fire department, or
Those
should it-
issues, I'll tell you, those issues will go to the county.
Okay.
Historically, but I'm happy to take them on as best I can firsthand and to knock on doors and do the best I can within my own role. I'm happy to do that, and have done that many times in the past.
If I could jump in on that, here's how it really works, is that an issue is raised, it basically comes to me, and then I try to park it with the right person. Sometimes it's a partnership between the sheriff's office and TBF&R.
I'm having my roots here. We've been so busy, I haven't had a chance to eat yet.
Yeah, and it's, a lot of times it's multidisciplinary. So what we do is we basically just partner up. Walker and his crew over at 6-2 have just been amazing, because what we've been able to do is, you know, say, well, this is kind of a problematic household, or this address, or, and just kind of let the right partners know what's going on, and that usually gets the right people involved. But sometimes we don't have jurisdiction, or the issue is a little fuzzy, or we need more information. And so it kind of starts with me and parking the issue, and that's where my contacts, whether it's referring it to a commissioner, if it's a really stinky one, it's like, hey, we need some top-down leadership on this, or if it's just a friendly email to the sheriff's office, or you know, to like Lisa. I had a non-issue that went to Lisa a couple days ago for apartment complexes. So, but Walker's, you know, he's a front door as well. You can contact him directly. But the neat thing is, we just work in partnership and just raise the issue. Don't worry about you trying to figure it out. That's what I've volunteered to do, and that's what Walker's paid to do.
You know, I have traditionally I would leave my business cards and so forth, which I am always happy to do. If you have a relationship with Eric and I mean, we ping each other on emails quite frequently.
Yeah.
And so, and many times people email Eric, and then he just forwards it right to me, and we go full circle. And so anytime, just do that. And I'll give you my own number, and I've given people my I don't like to give this out, but I've given people my personal cell number on more than one occasion. Who has the sewing shop here? Not sewing, we had that nuisance with the, maybe not sewing, is it a computer repair shop? Was it a Sue?
Are you
put
thinking
me,
the new,
you put me in touch with one of the community members here, and we helped her mitigate an issue.
just wondering if it was the pawn shop.
Maybe. Anyways, that's the best. That's a great loop to get in touch with me as well and stuff. Real quick, because and I apologize, I haven't seen your agenda tonight, so I don't want to hijack anybody's time who's here for a presentation.
I've got a landing pattern, but give us your pitch.
Okay, so in order to respect those time periods, I want to take your questions, and then what's kind of a transition right to talk about open burning, burn bans, and nuisance burning in the area, especially with this time of year. It's a very, very common thing. It's a very ambiguous thing, and it can be a real nuisance for maybe some of you in this room when you have people who are doing backyard burning. Okay, and so what I want you to know is that Metro is recognized with DEQ certain burning seasons where they allow backyard, agricultural burning. And those seasons generally go March 1st.
Hold still.
Yes, thank you, Eric. Through June 15th. Are we better now? Okay. And we generally have those in the fall as well. And when summer comes, DEQ enacts a burn ban, not only for air quality, but traditionally for fire hazards. It's a very, very ambiguous topic. And if anybody here has ever enjoyed burning in their backyard or called for a neighbor that's burning and had questions, it can be very confusing and very frustrating. So I don't know if that's anything you've ever experienced in the past. Anybody? No? Yes, ma'am? Well, there are regulations from the seasonal times, and generally they go to 5 or 7 at night. However, what happens is certain burning is allowed if it's done in a ceremonial fashion or, for example, a fire pit. And so quite often what people will do is they will do their burning in that manner, and yet it's still a nuisance for the neighbors, as well as possibly a hazard, especially if you're elderly or if you have a respiratory ailment and you have your windows open and smoke coming in. So to kind of make a big, long story short, what I'd like to just get the message out is that if you're having a problem with chronic nuisance burning, even though DEQ says to always call them, and even on our website, tvfnr.com, we have links to the DEQ, and you can call them. I want you to know we're always happy to come out. We're happy to come out and investigate it. I'm happy to have dialogue with the neighbors. I'm happy to have dialogue with the homeowners that are doing the burning and come to a solution that generally tries to make everybody happy and coexist. So does anybody have any questions on that topic? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, in the past, there was a reason sometimes to burn because you didn't.
And I apologize for drinking the root beer, sorry.
You didn't have yard recycling available.
Correct.
And now we do. Is it possible that the fire department worked with the county to come up with very clear regulations on what can and can't be done, so it's not ambiguous within the framework of DEQ, but also because the people don't really need to burn a lot of this stuff, even getting around doing it in a ceremonial or whatever manner, because they do have the opportunity every other week to get rid of their yard.
Right. There are actually very clear-cut definitions of what can be burned, and then there were times when it can be burned. However, and there are fines for this. However, the enforcement of it is very challenging because technically DEQ has the enforcement, law enforcement, and even the fire department, unless we have a countywide burn ban, which you see happen in the hottest season, hottest time of the summer and the driest time. It's very hard to enforce at the ground level. And once again, so I'm encouraging you to feel free to always contact us. And we're more than happy to investigate, to have the dialogue with homeowners, to make sure there's no hazards, and to mitigate as many problems as we can. But it's a very challenging thing to really come up with clear answers to. So, okay. Does anybody here have any questions specifically pertaining to fire emergency medical response in this area? I see so many familiar faces now. It's
I don't have a question.
Yes, sir.
I just want to thank the fire department. You're only a few blocks from me, and you've had to come about 4 times to my house in the last few months.
You and I have met before, perhaps.
Probably.
Hypothetically, right?
Thank you very much for being so close.
Yeah. Well, Eric knows that I've been in Aloha for many years, off and on, and I love working in Aloha. We're very busy. We're a training station. We train all the new firefighters, and as people promote through the various ranks, we train them as well. And our call volume is very busy, but I really, really enjoy this community. It's a very tight-knit community. I really appreciate the people here, and I really enjoy working here. So I try to be part of it as much as possible.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
You're doing an amazing job. I've worked with a lot of folks, and you've set the gold standard, platinum standard for community outreach. With your workload, it's amazing. I'm going to keep the meeting moving along.
Please do.
I'm going to ask that you just accept a 30-second comment. One of the concerns I'm getting in the South Cooper Mountain area is 175th, specifically at High Hill Lane, where we've got the sharp right turn downhill corner that is halfway between Station 6-9 and the intersection of 175th and Shoals Fair Road, is being planned to be very urbanized. There's a lot of contention there, and that what I ask is that your agency partners with us and this organization, specifically when it comes to setting the tone with the City of Beaverton as to the appropriate road infrastructure that needs to be updated to handle emergency traffic. As you heard earlier, we had a 911 call response where we had somebody went off their meds, turned that neighborhood into chaos. It was blocked down. There's no connectivity. You can't go east-west. It's a north-south path. And that the City of Beaverton seems to be hedging in terms of its connectivity on how they're going to manage that. And that safety should come first. And that I ask that you keep that top of mind. And we can continue that conversation offline. What I would like is to ask all of you to give them some applause. Because they do
Thanks, sir. And I apologize coming in late, marginally prepared. We've been so busy today, and the crew's back there trying to get some equipment cleaned up and everything. So
give them a high five. And I've got 2 pounds of cookie dough in the fridge for you because you totally took care of an important lady named Donna Tyner. Not only that, you took care of her iPhone she dropped in the parking lot in March.
Oh, right.
Yeah, yeah, and so you're going to get the cookie dough treatment.
I'm going to go, if not tonight, Friday, I'll get by that property again and check that out for you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Last minute question.
Please.
What's your percentage, what is your percentage from medical to structural to wildland?
Great question. Percentage of our instant response that is medical versus, let's just say all other, fire.
Wildland or structural?
Wildland, easily 80%. That I would venture to say slightly more. 80% certainly conservative, based on the data, but possibly more if you include motor vehicle accidents and calls of that nature as well.
Are you able to monitor the medical with your Toyota small cars, or there's a big engine at the garage?
Absolutely. So for those of you who have, Eric, do you want me to get the mic again, or
no,
okay?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I got you on back.
So for those of you who are new to this meeting, the question is versus our car program or our medic program, which is the smaller alternate response vehicles, where we have smaller staff with a single person, or the 2-person medic squads or medic units that are augmenting our medical calls. It's been awesome. It's been so great since we implemented those calls that are handling a bulk of non-emergency calls, allowing us to get to the emergency calls faster and augmenting the emergency response as well. And the phrase we're using is getting the right apparatus to the right emergency. I've been in the fire service and I've been a paramedic for a long time, been a paramedic for 20-something years plus, and I was very skeptical several years ago when we put those in. It's been a huge success. We want to do more. I wish we had more, could put more of them in. And surrounding area departments are starting to do that as well, because it's a cost savings. So it's been a great program. And you can come by anytime if you want at the station and check out the medic unit. We don't have the car there currently. it got moved to another station, and we got the medic come in.
What sort of equipment do you have in Bob? What sort of equipment?
It has advanced life support equipment for all our medical calls, and it has some air monitoring equipment, carbon monoxide for fire alarms and things like that, and some basic equipment for motor vehicle accidents, as well as firefighters' equipment, self-contained breathing apparatus, and basic firefighting supplies as well. But it's meant to go out strictly for emergency and non-emergency calls to free up the other units more. So it's been wonderful. Right now they're just going during the day because we don't have the budget for 24 hours right now. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
I can see it live, it's pretty cool. We really appreciate it, thank you.
So we'll follow up again.
Perfect, perfect, see you around. Ben Johnson, pop quiz, who knows what Ben Johnson does for CPO6? Lyles.
He's on the ESPD Board of Directors or committee or...
He's a rep for
something like that.
ESPD, which stands for?
Enhanced Sheriff Control District.
Thank you. Ben,
Yes.
you got 2 minutes, take it
I've
away.
been for a long time.
I thank Eric for giving me a couple of minutes to talk about this subject. Actually, I'm not going to talk about the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District. What I want to talk about is the Washington County Sheriff's Office Foundation. Who's heard of that foundation before? Good. Nobody knows about it, except the commissioner. The Washington County Sheriff's Office Foundation, which I am also on a board member of that one, is a charitable organization that handles donations to the Sheriff's Department for specific things. They volunteer and fund a lot of the SKID program, which is Stop Kids Intoxicated Driving program that's put on at the high schools. We fund elder safe bracelets for tracking elder people who need to be kept track of. And there's a few other things. We have in the past purchased Explorer equipment for search and rescue, their equipment and the vans that they get, their 15-passenger vans. All those are done by donations to the foundation. It's a charitable organization, so any donations to it are tax deductible. If you have to give a lot of money anymore to get the tax deductible. Eric said I had to keep this short, so I will. I have foundation pamphlets for just information. The foundation is also looking for some new members for the board of directors. It is all volunteer. We meet 4 times a year. I won't tell you what time of the day it is, in case you're interested. But if you're interested in it, it has information on the foundation, an application for donating for businesses and stuff to get recognized, and the information on how to become a member of the foundation on the board of directors. We operate with about 13 people, and we're always generally operating with about 7 or 8 rather than the full complement. So we are always encouraging people to bring interested people to help with the foundation, meet, decide on where the money's going to go, help fundraise, and provide information to the public about the foundation. If anybody wants any of this information, I have 10 copies and 10 copies of this. So, you pass them around. Thank you, Eric. That's enough for me.
The many things you do, and I really appreciate that. And I'm gonna get fresh. There we go. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wire up our commissioner, and our commissioner, Dick Schouten, has got an announcement to make. And after that, what we'll do is we'll have Steve and Bill give us a TSP update. Commissioner, why don't you come up here on camera where we can document this historic presentation?
All right.
Right here.
I'll make it short and sweet. As you know, the Aloha Library has about 1,200 square feet currently. That's our first library. The second library, the next generation library, is going to have, we think, my best understanding is somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 square feet. That'll take us to the next level and definitely help us get qualified for the Washington County Cooperative Library Service. However, There will be costs involved that will be needed to do the kind of architect interior design work to make sure that we have the proper library tenant improvements and all the things that need to be done from a professional standpoint, from an architect and interior design, library services standpoint, as to how you would literally transform an empty space of 5,000 to 6,000 square feet into a functioning library. Estimated cost of that has been somewhere in the neighborhood of $15,000. I'm really pleased to tell you that the county is going to provide that grant for $15,000 for the Aloha Library, and I'm really pleased to tell you that. And that's it, short and sweet.
I appreciate that. Thank you for your efforts. This group, as you all know, got the library started, and it's really been amazing. As I said earlier in this this presentation, one of the things that we had happen was CPO1 started looking at what we got done, a business association, library, many different things, and like, you guys get what done? And this is just what we do, and I didn't think this is just what we do. And then to see our commissioner step up and say, hey, we're going to do some neat things, and the partnerships and the community development from an organic level has just been nothing short of amazing. So
I think, like I said, I think it reflects the confidence and that we have in what all of us are doing here in Aloha.
I think we're building a better place, and that's if we're all on the same page. That's what I'd like to continue. Now what I'd like to do is introduce Bill Berg, and also Steve. What's your last name? Steve Kelly. Steve Kelly. Thank you. As Ben is our ESPD rep, Bill Berg stepped up for the 2035 TSP update, and he has been taxing on his time. And there's been a lot of meetings, and these meetings are intellectually challenging, a lot of material to read, and for that I'm very grateful for the efforts of both Steve at the county level and also our volunteer Bill Berg. As I transition to him, I'd like you to suggest you visit our Facebook page. There's a blurb in the Oregonian about the volunteer work that Bill does for the community, and it's deep, amazing, and I really respect that. With that being said, I'd like to ask for some applause for Bill's participation.
Thanks, Eric. Actually, I used to be a fairly regular attendee at these meetings, and with all the various other things going on, particularly I'm on the Traffic Commission in Beaverton, and it meets at exactly the same day and time as this meeting. So it was the fact that you guys had this delayed by a few days, I'm actually able to be here. So thank you for the opportunity to give you guys an update. I should do this on a more regular basis. The idea here was that there are actually 18 of us who are representatives on the Community Advisory Committee for the Transportation Plan Update, appointed by the commissioners for good or evil, whatever, whatever intent. And we have two functions really, in a nutshell. One is to advise county staff and provide input to the heavy lifting that they're doing. Actually, they're doing the bulk, far more work than we've done on this in terms of pulling the plan update together. But on the other hand, we're also supposed to give updates to the group that we're representing. So I've fallen down on the job of that, but I'm glad to have this opportunity to give you guys an update. This is not, you'll be happy to know, a copy of the slides that we're going to present today. There's no way that we would go through that and subject you guys to all of that, but it was, I brought this to give you kind of an idea of the amount of information that the county's provided to us along the way. I went back and looked through, it's probably been at least 10 meetings that we've been, if you count the A, B's, and C's along with the numbers. And I looked back, and the first meeting was March 19th of, of 2012. And now we're on meeting number 8, plus, like I said, a few additional ones. And I think a lot has been accomplished, and I'm going to let Steve go into a lot of the details on what's been done. But suffice it to say that it's been an interesting process for me as a relative newbie to this whole transportation planning update process. Hal's also on the advisory committee, and he's a veteran of this, having survived an actual full update. I think back in 2002 was the last time it was updated. Yeah, this is quote unquote a minor update, and I was thinking to myself, if this is a minor update, then you know, it's going to be an entertaining process to go through a full update in a few years, I guess. We'll have to go through this process again. Hopefully we'll complete the minor update before the full update has to happen back in 2015 or so, I think. But anyway, we are at the point of having an actual draft of an ordinance that's being reviewed, I believe, at the Planning Commission level at this point, and then it will go to Dick and the rest of the commissioners for their review and approval at some point here in the near future. So I would encourage you to go to the TSP, the 2035 TSP updates website. It has information about all the meetings that have taken place. It's easy to find. I don't remember the website address, but just Google Washington County 2035 Transportation Plan Update, and it'll take you right to it. But it has all the information we've been presented. It has minutes from all the meetings, not only the Community Advisory Committee, but there's an interagency coordinating committee as well, I think it is, ICC, that also has been working in parallel with us. And so there's a wealth of information out there. There's a copy of the draft ordinance if you want to read through that. We've been working mostly over the last year on looking at things like existing conditions reports. And one thing that I've learned in going through this process is that these guys just aren't making this stuff up. I mean, there's a lot of data that goes into this. We looked at everything in breakout sessions from gaps in sidewalks across Washington County, particularly in the Aloha area. You could see clearly that there were a lot of needs there. Where there are bottlenecks in traffic, where there's freight route bottlenecks, I mean, it just goes on and on. There's all kinds of information that goes into doing one of these updates. So it's done based on a lot of data and a lot of hard work. And out of that has come a series of probably, I think there's 11 goals, if I remember right. There's 11 goals that are fairly high-level goals, overarching goals, and then we broke those down into a set of objectives for each of those goals. And then within each of those objectives, there's a series of strategies that talk a little bit more about how you would actually go about implementing such a goal and an objective. And so this draft ordinance contains a complete list of all of those down to the level of the strategies. So we're kind of halfway through. And then the next part of this, as Steve will talk about, is, you know, what do you do next in terms of how do you implement this? What are some of the actual recommended changes that are going to happen as part of this update? So read through that on the website, and Steve will talk a little bit about that. Another thing I really encourage you to look at is there was a study done recently on the Washington County Transportation Survey. There's a link to that at the website as well. And it's fairly short. There's a nice summary, and it's got a lot of data about, I think they surveyed 400 people in the community. It was representative of the demographics of the community in terms of you know, various parameters. But it also gives a really good idea of what people think are important things to deal with in terms of transportation within Washington County. So I would highly recommend that you read through a copy of this. It'll probably take you a half hour, but I thought it was fascinating. And the even better thing was, and the nice thing to know is that this came out in April, and it was fairly well aligned with what we've been doing for the last year in terms of the needs and how they align with what we thought as a smaller group were the things that we ought to focus on in terms of the transportation plan update. So I will stop babbling. I want to leave plenty of time for Steve, but please ask questions. We're here to give you an update on where things are at.
Bill, could you send that around, Mike? Just
Yeah.
kind of eyeball that as it goes?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
The survey itself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Get you wired up. Standing right.
Well, I'm not sure I have anything left to say after that introduction. That was pretty comprehensive in a lot of ways. Thank you for having me here. I've got a couple of handouts to go around, and I think I've got 5 or 6 color copies. I'll keep one of those here to refer to it in case somebody can't read something, but I'll send this handout around. And we also have a slideshow that we actually put together for the CCI a couple of weeks ago, and it really hasn't changed significantly, this Committee for Citizen Involvement. So Bill went ahead and put it up here for reference. Really, I'm here tonight to sort of describe where we're at in the process and listen to what concerns or questions people might have as we're going forward. Excuse me, the transportation plan update, as Bill mentioned, was really envisioned as sort of a modest transportation plan update. The last time we comprehensively did this was in 2002, and I recognize several faces from that process here this evening, as well as several people that I've talked to through various other forums tonight. So I'm glad that people continue to be interested. As we're looking at our transportation system plan, I did bring a copy of really our starting point, and this is why we call it a modest update, is we have an existing transportation system plan that was adopted in 2002, and it's been amended over 20 times in the last 10 years. So we've kept up with a lot of the other planning efforts that have been going on. We just haven't done a comprehensive overview or review of the plan. So the maps, we think, are fairly close to what the community envisions. So you'll see we've broken this into two phases, and I'm just going to point here. The first sort of phase is this Ordinance 768 on sort of the front side of this, which talks about the goals, objectives, and strategies, and that's what Bill was referring to as our current work. I'm going to see what's in our slideshow here. Let's see if we go down one. Uh-oh.
From the right.
Go to the right. I think I probably need to select that. There we go. There we go. So yeah, we have sort of a two-phase study, and I brought a handy-dandy size of document here, which I just think so it won't stand on the chair anymore. But the point here is that we're about halfway through. Sort of the first steps and what's contained in Ordinance 768 are the sort of boring framework for how we talk about the transportation system and transportation system plan. And that's the goals. What are we trying to achieve for the community in the future as we go forward? What sort of objectives and then strategies? How do we get there? And some of those are quite aspirational, and others are very specific, saying the county will do this. So if I'm sweating up here, it's because I'm warm, not because I'm hot. Yeah, questions?
Steve, question. Does this approach, is it mindful of the build-out of South Hillsborough?
I expected questions about South Hillsborough tonight. Absolutely. We're certainly involved with working with the community of Hillsborough in their planning processes for South Hillsborough, as well as with Beaverton for South Cooper Mountain, as well as with Tigard for River Terrace, as well as I can think of half a dozen others. Amber Glen, I was involved in the committees for Amber Glen, and other areas around the county. And so those planning efforts, we're not trying to replicate or replace. TV Highway being another one that goes right through Aloha, that's an important study for the community here, this part of the community. And when we talk about the future system, if we look at a snapshot in time now and then a snapshot in time after those different planning processes and areas have been developed, we can see how things would need to change over time. So that's one of our approaches. So we definitely are taking into account all of the work that we've been doing over the last 10, 15 years. One thing I do want to say is that my direction thus far has been confined to the current urbanized area for new roadway facilities. And it's not that we're not looking at the rural area or travel through the rural area, but we're not looking at new west side bypasses or new facilities outside the current urban area to serve new travel patterns. If we were to take on something like that, it would necessarily be through another separate, different process.
Can I jump in with a question there?
Uh-huh.
Actually, two questions. One, could you give me the mic back because it just died?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not your problem, that's my problem. Corridor H was something that, that's uncomfortable, I'm sorry. Corridor H was something I think Steve Sigathy said that was kind of percolating back on the radar for this reason. With South Cooper Mountain, Roy Rogers West, River Terrace, Corridor H has been mapped for a long period of time, been something that's been needed. And as you said, you've stuck to the urbanization as your focus. Could you tell me where Corridor H is and where it weaves into this? And this is something that is...
Well, I don't know what you necessarily mean by Corridor H, but regardless of that, we intend to evaluate this system and any new road improvement, road connections, roadways, new roads would be located within the current urban area. We're not going to be, that would sidetrack our entire process, and that's part of what happened last time, is we got talking about the needs for that travel north and south between across the west side of the county, and talking about that, not that it's not a need, it's just that it can become its own process and really detract from a county system plan. So until I'm given a different direction, that I should be exploring that as some other kind of, as some other, part of the study. Our direction at this point is to focus on what we can do within the existing urban area, and then what the rural needs are also. And we've done a lot of work working with the rural community, but I wanted to get that out there as part of the answer to your question, because whenever I hear about sort of the different areas out there, the first thing that comes up is, well, what about a road to connect them? And the South Hillsboroughs and the South Cooper Mountains. And so I just wanted to say that the approach we're using is inside the current urban area.
As is my question. I'm entirely in the urban area. The roads that I'm most concerned with are county roads that are within the urban unincorporated area.
Sure, and we expect that...
Kinnaman and then 209, even Blanton right here, when South Hillsborough gets built out, it's going to be very busy.
It could be, and we're working with Hillsborough on not only inside, but certainly impacts to the existing community, and how to pay for those improvements that are warranted through the development of that area. So just like we are working with the other communities too. So I had a meeting about South Cooper Mountain this morning, actually. We've been meeting with Hillsborough on a very regular basis. So this is sort of our plan, and we're getting into what I call the fun part now, which is talking about the maps. And so we view our current transportation map, this is part of it, the roadway functional classification and lane numbers map, an important part of it. It's only a part of it. We have many others, our freight routes as well as our bike and ped routes. So we certainly are aware here. Let's see what the next slide says. So the next slide begins to talk about that 2014 ordinance, which is really geared toward developing the modal plans based on the guidance that we're talking about through our through our ordinance that we're working with the Planning Commission currently, and we'll be working with the board here in August, starting in August. So let's see what the next slide says. Yeah, and then this is an overview of Ordinance 768. And here is the one I was looking for, and it's included on the bottom of your handout on the back, which sort of has the process that we're envisioning to get through developing some information about the transportation system. So this isn't an adequate amount of information about the transportation system yet. We're taking a more in-depth look at a number of things, and beginning to develop packages of solutions, as well as identify problems that are not only there today, but ones we see that could be occurring in the future as developments like South Hillsborough, South Cooper Mountain, and other areas fill in with more development. And begin to evaluate how those alternatives perform, so that we're not just talking about, well, this road is better than that road, or we have some real information about what the problem is and some solutions that could begin to approach it. And have that begin to work with our committees through those solutions that we haven't already identified on our transportation plan, or maybe we don't need everything on our transportation plan, but really that's the starting point. Why wouldn't we need it? And going from there. I think that's all the slides we have. I'm going to see if I can go back. Yeah. So really tonight what I wanted to do was sort of let people know that we're out there, that we're developing, updating our plan. And we're going to be out at some farmers markets probably in August or September timeframe. We want to have something to share. And I'm certainly welcome to come back here whenever you'd like me to come and be able to share more information about what we have. But I really just want to let you know where we're at and ask what questions and spend some time listening to what concerns you might have. So with that, I'll wait for questions.
The north-south roads,
Uh-huh.
you know, 170th, 198.
Sure.
209. 209.
Mhm.
I mean, 170th, 5 o'clock from TV Highway clear back to Beaver Acres sometimes.
Yeah, I've seen it. And one of the issues with that, I believe, that particular route is the signal timing is set to prioritize TV Highway. And I think they've changed it a little bit. We've been working with ODOT, the Oregon Department of Transportation, on their signal timing. It's a complaint we hear is that the signal backs up onto the arterial.
Or if you want to take Alexander to make a right on 170 to go to TV Highway, because it's suicide if you go out 174th and try and make a left onto TV Highway. You're going to get in an accident. But
Right.
if you're on Alexander making a right to 170th, it's almost impossible to make a right-hand turn because you either have to wait 2 or 3 lights or you have to just go and block the intersection.
Yeah, I've seen people do that.
There's 300 apartments being built between TV Highway and Baseline on 170th that aren't even on that road yet.
Uh-huh.
What's going to happen when those become active?
Well, there will be more cars there during peak time, won't there?
I mean, it's parking lot now during certain hours. So.
Mm-hmm. That's what we're trying to plan for is what to do about those sorts of circumstances when there is more growth there. I'm sure the apartment complex was required to do a traffic study as part of their development, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the 170th would get an adequate amount of green time to not have it back up the way it does.
It's on our list for improvements.
Pardon?
It's on the Major Street Transportation Improvement Program list for improvements down the road. At the moment, the first project in this area that's going to get funded with Major Street Transportation Improvement dollars is going to be 209 between Farmington and TV Highway. I anticipate that happening in the next 3 to 4 years.
And one of the inputs we made back to the staff was that in terms of north-south connectivity, we wanted them to look at not just study areas that are pieces of that. I mean, there's multiple studies going on, but just the coordination between those studies, so that you're looking at it from the standpoint of Shoals Ferry all the way up to as close to 26 as you can see. If somebody wants to traverse that entire area, what can we do to help that? And 209th is part of it. Farther north are issues. If we look at the Cooper Mountain area, South Cooper Mountain area, that's another problem. So
yeah, and that is certainly north-south through that. And that is something we're taking a look at.
Yeah, and we reflected that out into in multiple meetings.
You've had your arm for a while now.
Yeah, the other one I'm not hearing mentioned, but I think it's really a problem, and that is with ODOT. I realize it's a state, and that's Farmington. And 179th and Farmington was really bad, and now you have all those things going in across from Brookway, and then you have the apartments over on the other side of Henneman, and it's really becoming jammed up. And that's been there for a long time and a problem. So my thing is, if you're thinking in the future, it's too late for the future. We're already in a problem there right now.
See, if you want to dovetail on that, I put my head through a windshield on November 8th, 1988, at that intersection of 179th and Farmington.
Yeah.
Somebody was test driving a car, taking an illegal left turn, and it's got a hump there that needs to be mowed down, and
And the other thing
Yeah,
that they're
it's a
doing,
bad
which
one.
we ought to get the police out there at the right times, is if we're on Farmington and turning on 179, they go past you on this side and almost fall right in the ditch. They won't stop. They just keep going right on past you. They're not supposed to be doing that, and the car has gotten in the ditch before.
Yeah.
But, and it needs some attention now. I know I've been hollering for a long time, but it really needs it. It's getting worse and worse.
Yes, sir.
This is more of a comment really for you, Steve and Bill. I appreciate the great work that you're doing, but maybe it's for this Steve and maybe even the commissioner. We had our Metro counselor, who's actually new to this district because they realigned, and we were needling him on transportation because Metro has the mandate for regional transportation planning. And he basically threw it back on the counties and said, you know, we kind of sew together the plans that the counties push up to Metro, which I'm not really sure I totally agree with that. But the underlying thing is there really isn't region-wide planning or leadership. And I think the CRC failure was a manifestation of that. People understand the need to spend $3 billion on a bridge, but if you go to the Rose Quarter and you're stuck there, it still doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So where's the region-wide? Because people that live in Aloha might work in Wilsonville, might work in North Portland. I personally worked in North Portland for 7 years, and I did the tunnels.
Yeah.
And, you know, we just got to have big thinking and then big leadership because there's big bills. And we all want bikes. We want mass transit. We want this all thought through. We don't want to pit one against the other and then just let them kill each other in the process. We really want good, smart thinking.
Right.
And part of that back to you, Steve, is that the inability to even have the discussion over the rural parts of the county is frustrating. So we really need to have the comprehensive discussion, not take patchwork pieces. And Bill's good work trying to sew together the various studies, and God knows the various studies are really good, but they're not necessarily comprehensive. I've attended a lot of South Hillsborough meetings. They're very good, but they're so myopic, they're talking about half street improvements of 209. That's how inside the box that plan is. Well, I live a half a mile outside South Hillsborough, and I know I'm getting whacked when they put 30,000+ people half a mile from my house. But it's not a complaint, it's just a request for more leadership, more comprehensive thinking on the transportation. And yes, bikes and mass transit as well, the whole picture.
I second that.
One of the things, I really thank you for your comments. One of the things I was encouraged by the survey is it sort of showed, well, a couple of things. Maintenance as being certainly a priority for our community. And it also showed that when you poll the community, you see people wanting to see a balance of, or at least there's a diversity of opinion that results in an overall balance of an approach to the transportation problems and systems we have. And I also want to make sure I didn't characterize the rural area incorrectly because I've been guilty or accused of that before. We certainly have done a lot of work on how to manage the current rural systems better and put a lot of effort and thought into the best ways and practices of doing that, but not expand new roads out there. As far as the regional plan goes, in a lot of ways I agree with what you're saying. The regional plan does have some very specific requirements that that identify directions that we are required to comply with. So it is the suite of what we decide to do as a community and what projects are brought forward as a community. Those are from the cities and from the county, but they do have some other very specific, this is the system and how to plan the system requirements that we can comply with. So.
Give about another 5 minutes.
Yep, that's perfect. And Steve, I think I saw your hand first and then Steve. Maybe because you were sitting next to the other person.
Just question. Jumping in. Obviously, we got this massive thing going in over here in the field, and the massive thing going in on South Cooper Mountain as far out as beyond Woolwich's or thereabouts. That is horrendous amount of people and so forth. Obviously, you're thinking about how and where you're going to connect those two up and over Cooper Mountain. And living in Cooper Mountain for 40 years, I know where you can get up that thing and where you can't in all winter long. And even when the sheriff's department shuts off 170th at the bottom, it's too steep. 185th, probably not. If you took part of Jenkins' estate and rounded out that corner more, widened it out, and went across that way and down onto Shoals Ferry as a possibility because it's rural and down, or you're going to have to get out toward Kyle Flat or something. So is there a thought process as far as that goes? Or is it you think that far on it? Because you got to link those two entities, I would think.
We began having those discussions with the cities, and we certainly are exploring that through this planning effort. So that's, you're right, it's not an easy answer. And
There's some ways up there that are flat too steep.
Yeah.
You have major problems.
there's never easy answer. I'm going to go to Steve and then back to you.
Well, I was the CPO6 representative to the transportation plan update back in 2002.
That's right.
At what point, that was about 4 years into the South Hillsborough process. It started in '98. So it was, the writing was on the wall that South Hillsborough was coming in at that point. At that point, we didn't realize South Cooper Mountain or West Bull Mountain was coming in, but we knew that it was sometime those entities were going to push that direction because that's the only way they could push Beaverton and Tigard. And in the process, 11 years ago, I tried to get the county to see the planning process for the transportation plan update as that far down the road, so that when you got a new urban area, you could plug the correct transportation facilities into that area, because already Hillsborough was saying, well, it's not on the transportation, it's not on the county's transportation plan. So that was my objective when I got involved with the transportation plan update. Let's get it on the transportation plan so that they can't say there is no connections like we're all talking about.
She's right, the problem is now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it is.
exactly.
As far as the planning
Yesterday.
is concerned, you gotta do some pretty smart things right now.
Well, it's a little late now because we've already
Yeah.
allowed the planning of South Hillsborough to go forward without the kind of linkage. Even, and I'm not talking about West Side Freeway. I'm talking about even, let's call a spade a spade. There is no plan to handle through traffic in the southwest quadrant of Washington County. There just isn't there. Hasn't been since the West Side Freeway went up. That's unlike, I want to frame right now, unlike all the rest of the region. There's a way to handle through traffic everywhere else in the Portland metropolitan area except this portion of Washington County. And we rely on the surface arterial system to do that. And so that's what I was trying to push, that there would be a surface arterial system that at least could pretend to address the through traffic. And I couldn't even get that far. And I was willing, we tried hard, everybody on that committee, remember 12 years ago or 11 years ago, we asked for that. We asked to have it modeled. What would it be like to have surface roads connecting future urban areas? What would it be like to have a freeway out there? And we were rebuffed by actually the chairman of the board of commissioners personally. So I'm just saying, it's just, it's really too short-sighted, and to think that we can solve our urban transportation problems by densifying. And I think you hear from these people, and we all know it, that exacerbates the problem. It doesn't solve the problem.
An example, embedded in South Hillsborough is Cornelius Pass comes down and ends in South Hillsborough. People are going to make a left turn at the orange barricades and come onto 209. And they're all going to dump on the intersection at 209 and Farmington and Cadwell. And a lot of those people are gonna go up Radhorn and up and over the hill.
They already are. Well, what's worse is that they're planning a downtown in South Hillsborough straddling that roadway instead of putting on, I mean, I suggested early on in the process, at least put your downtown on one side or the other of that roadway so that you're not, you're facilitating some sort of movement. That didn't fly. It's just like there's nothing in the plan. That's what I'm getting at. Is there something in this plan that will help us in the future? And I'm not seeing that because I see the state priorities go in the other direction with the fallacy that as long as we get more dense, we won't have transportation problems. And it's just brilliant. it defies what we see in front of our eyes for the last 40 years.
Eric gave me about 5 minutes, 4 minutes ago.
I think Kent Wu here had a quick question, as this lady here. If you could just maybe give them each 30 seconds and wrap. I want to make sure everybody who raised their hand gets a chance to at least chat with you. Kent?
I was wondering if there was any assessment on the connection between transportation and land use. Again, this goes to the whole problem where you just look at transportation and not actually look at the uses that are being developed. Are they more mixed? Are they purely acres of residential that will have to get into a car, will have to go and drive and exasperate our streets more and more? Is there any assessment on how those two ideas are coming together?
Complicated question to answer quickly. What I can say is yes, we have looked at the land activity and where people want to go to and from. And that's certainly something that is an important driver for the transportation system. That's serving what people want to do. So it's in some ways, from a transportation perspective, you're trying to serve those new communities, where those people are and where they want to go. And the question becomes how to do that. But it's certainly an important aspect of everything we do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to comment. I mean, in my reading through this, I mean, it seems to be kind of fundamentally linked together, that, transportation is a land use issue. So when you read through some of the goals and objectives and strategies, you'll see things like connectivity, you'll see things like coordination between plans. And that includes coordination not within just outside of the incorporated cities within Washington County, but between those. Because like Beaverton has its own transportation plan, and Washington County has theirs, and just making sure we have those linkages between the two, and at least a consideration between the two is something I've been looking at specifically as part of participating on this committee. So we're talking about those things.
Last question?
Yes, does transportation have anything at all to do with crossing lines for pedestrians?
Oh, absolutely. That's
Really?
a huge component of
So
our.
we wait till somebody dies on TV Highway where people have to walk across the street to catch the bus, and there is not even a line, nothing on the pavement, absolutely nothing.
We recently completed, and will be adopting through this process, TV Highway corridor plan, working with the Oregon Department of Transportation to really a lot of the focus of that was on safety and lighting and other issues around TV Highway to try to improve the operations and safety of that corridor. That was one of the main considerations going into that. Our first goal is safety, and that's an important aspect of the system. And pedestrians are certainly, vulnerable to a vehicle out there, and it's something that we're always concerned about. And the pedestrian system, sort of the broader connection. How do I get across the street? Or down the street if there's a lack of a facility. It's certainly something that's very important. We've inventoried where sidewalks are and identified sort of the key places
Yes,
to
but
put
you're
them
not
in.
addressing the issue. The issue is that we have a TV Highway. Most of us here drive cars. I drive a car. So it doesn't really it has nothing to do with me. But when I drive on TV Highway and I see a bus stop, all right, and there is no way to cross for people because there is the train tracks. So you have to go and cross TV Highway in order to get to the bus stop. And those are the poor and the elderly. And there is not even a line, a white line. There's not even a white line. Would somebody tell me? I mean, do we need a study for that?
I can tell you how it works in Beaverton, and Steve can comment on the process in Washington County, but those are the kind of issues that you call the city, you call the traffic engineer. Oh wait, let me explain. So at least this is how it's supposed to work, and I've been on the commission, and it does work this way. People can propose areas where you need a crosswalk, where you need signal lights, where you need various safety-related things. Those go to the top of the list. Anything that's safety-related should be talked about. It'll get scheduled at a meeting. It may not happen for multiple months because you tend to get backed up, but there is a process for dealing with them. So I would encourage you to.
Except I think it took some kids getting hit for the signal or the crosswalk by 7-Eleven, and supposedly after the kids got hit, the news media said it was going to take another 2 or 3 years to get a light, and lo and behold, that got moved to the top, even though that was an accident waiting to happen, which happened.
Well, hopefully that's not driver.
So it was between 185th and 179 or 170 traveling on the TV Highway going east. There are 2 bus stops. Corner streets. There's not even a white line on the street. Nothing. I mean, people take a chance. To me, this is inconceivable. I don't think we need a study for it. I think it needs to be done. A white line? A crosswalk?
Those are some great comments. At that point, I got to jump in and call time and ask you all for some applause. Well, I mean, these are some really challenging topics, and they're controversial, and everybody seems to have an opinion, and there's layers of stuff going on. But you know what? I really appreciate you both stepping up and taking care of it, because we have to use the transportation system. It is how we get around. Without it, we're dead in the water.
I also wanted to comment, I have a stack of my cards in the back. It's a direct line to my desk. If you have an issue like that, feel free to call me, and I'll put you in contact with whoever is, I'll try to put you in contact with whoever is the appropriate party to address the issue. So feel free, they're available staff. I'll leave them here.
What I'd like to do now, I'd like to introduce Janel Jospehson. And folks, one of the things that many of the things that Janel has done has been remarkable. In addition to writing a book about our community, she's also stepped up and helped with so many different functions, including the library. But so that she doesn't have to, I'm going to ask you just stick a crowbar in your wallet and pony up $21.95, which I hope is the price of the book, and just buy a copy, because it is so neat to have, in addition to Janel, another local author, Patricia Mayberry, who, so we've got 2 authors in the room who have really made a substantial impact with our library and our community. And in advance of her presentation, I would ask that we get some applause for Janel. I want you to stand right here. So yours, take it away.
Well, I'm going to talk tonight a little bit about this book that I did for the Arcadia Publishing Images of America series. And it's not like I started out I got this idea, oh, I'm going to do this book. It was kind of a process that started by me attending some of these community meetings and sort of one of my little methods of learning more about the community and having a better understanding of the issues that were being talked about in these meetings. And so I started just going around the Aloha Reedville area and looking at roads, subdivisions, and just how things were configured. And one thing I started the more I looked, and the more I sort of looked into subdivisions and the housing developments, there were more and more. And so I began to develop an interest in the history of this area and contacted the
I
Washington
also
County
want to comment,
Museum.
I have a stack of my
And
cards
that's
for
where
that.
my
Restaurants
discovery
like that.
began.
If you have anything like that,
It would be
feel free to
Reference
call me and
Library
I'll
up
put
there,
you in contact
and the
with
librarian
whoever is,
that
I'll try to
named
put you in
Wynn, I
contact
don't
with
know if
whoever
she's
the
still up there.
appropriate party
But I
is
started
to
making friends
address
up
the
there, and
issue. So
she
feel free,
began
they're available.
pulling out volumes or archives and saying, here, sit down and take a look. Which I did, and then also through that process, I met Judy Goldman, who is a
One of the things
descendant
that
of
Janel's,
Courtney,
many of the
and
things that
she
Janel's
was
done
also
have been
very
remarkable.
helpful.
In addition to writing a book about our
And,
community, she's also stepped up and
about
helped with
that
so many
time,
different
I'd
functions,
say,
including the library.
there was a
But, so that
presentation
she doesn't
at
have
the
to,
History
I'm
Center.
gonna
John
ask you to
Heinrich
stick
was
a
talking
crowbar
about,
in your wallet and Pony
history of
Eskimo
Aloha.
195, which I hope is the
And
price of the book.
that was kind of
And
an
just buy a
really
copy
interesting to me because I attended that. And basically, he would talk about when he was in high school and how he had the summer job of working for a title company here, I guess, and they had him going out and scouting all of his work between Kicking Mountain and Highway 26. And he said he couldn't understand and so he started talking about that and some of the things that he was talking about at that time.
It's all yours, take it away.
Brought back memories for me of when I first moved out here to Washington County in the late 60s as kind of the first wave of Portland Creek, basically. And we moved to Cedar Mill, and that was kind of my orientation of Washington County in those days. And I can remember I had a job at Tectonics between my junior and senior year. I rode my little beach cruiser bicycle from Terra Linda down to Tectonics with my little summer job. And I don't even think at that point in time, I don't remember there being even four-way stops on Murray Boulevard. I think it was just stop signs. And really there at Walker, I don't remember there being much of anything. We never came out this way, even from just living so close by, because there was really no destination out in here. So I didn't know that much about this area, a little bit about Washington County. So then I just started doing research, and at the Beaverton History Center that night, that the Arcadia Publishing book on Beaverton had just come out. I was talking to somebody, and I'd mentioned I was doing the historical research, and they said, well, you should just do a book about Aloha Reedville. And I'm like, well, probably not. But I looked into it, and the next thing I knew, I was sending a proposal to Arcadia, and they sent me back a contract, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this project. And at that point in time, I had not sourced that many images or old photos, so I really had to start digging for that information because there was I didn't find any real comprehensive or pieced together story. There was a little bit of information here and a little bit of information there. And the more that I kind of looked into it, I was starting to able to connect the dots. Okay, so I kind of forgot where I was on that one. Anyway, I started asking questions, asking the community, and people put me in contact with just people they thought that might have old photos or oral histories. And that became a really interesting part of my journey because I get on the phone and just start cold calling people and leads and now just, hey, do you have old photos or whatever? And some would say yes, and I got turned down a lot of times. And an interesting part of that process was some people would say, oh yeah, I've got all this stuff, and you'd go sit down with them, it was nothing. And then some would say, oh, no, I've got some things, but they probably won't be of any interest to you. And I'd sit down and they'd show me and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, okay, the Thayer Chicken Farm. When I saw that one, I just thought, oh, those are great photos. Anyway, so that was kind of the process that I went through with the book. I had about, all total, a year. It was 6 months of just sourcing the photos, kind of manipulating them to the specifications for publication, and just doing some of the writing, and then you wait, and then they publish it, and you go through the editorial process, and, you know, that was that process. Should I go over a little bit about the history?
Yeah.
Okay, well, actually, the history of this area started more down toward the community of Farmington. And it started because I would say probably the river and the clearing down in that area. And back in the 1840s, when that area was settled, it was settled by people who, that was an open area. The basic form of transportation, there was not much overland transportation going on. So they were using the river to get back and forth. And then that area, because it was open and not forested, people congregated down there. And then they started moving up more up Hazeldale, up to 09th, because they were coming up here to access what was the Plains Falls Road, a road that went from Forest Grove to Willamette Falls area, and that was an active territorial road from 1843. So that's how this whole thing sort of got started. Then the donation land claim era, in the early 1850s, as Oregon became a territory, and they wanted to, the government feds wanted to increase settlement in this area. Then they offered 640 acres of land to people, to married couples who had settled before 1850. And then there was a less of amount of land that for people who arrived afterward. Let me go now. One of the most, sorry, I didn't write that. One of the best things that I had found up at the Washington County Museum was this map of donation land claims. This was developed by the Tualatin Valley historian, Robert L. Benson. And he did that in 1980. He had won a history contest sponsored by the Aloha Days celebration. And as a result, his essay on the donation land claim holders and the actual donation land claims, he went in and did the research of the actual surveys and plotted the lines of the land claims, the old houses, churches, schools, that type of thing. And that was really invaluable research. And I'd like to find out more, eventually, more of the information he has up there at the Washington County Museum. He was quite the historian and was also responsible for, with the Tualatin Valley Heritage Group, they created plaques, historical plaques, and put them on a bunch of old landmarks. There's one up there, the old Okerman House on Kinlan Road has got one. And then I would say another significant pointer for me was when Casey Parks did that story on the Master Century House out here on Kinlan Road. And that, and I looked at that and I thought, wow, is that, because I'd driven by that, hundreds of times, and I never really knew what it was. And so that was kind of an aha moment. And especially the date that was built, 1853, because you just don't find structures like that, much of anywhere anymore, especially in this climate and being made of wood and deterioration. So then after this area developed, the road, Farmington Road developed further going this way because it was the road that people accessed to go to the Harris Ferry. They developed the Harris family that was kind of credited for settling that area and associated with that area now, at least historically. They operated a ferry. They were one of a handful of ferry operators on the Tualatin River. Later built a bridge. I think that was in 1867, a wooden bridge in that area. And they were the first postmaster, and I think also had a church. And that area developed. It developed further up Farmington Road for the people that were headed in that direction to the Harris Ferry, and also a lot of connections, transportation connections and roads off of the Plains Falls Road to Hillsborough, to Linton, Portland, and then the Harris Ferry took people to Lafayette, another old historical area. And then the Reed Farm. Actually, this area developed in I would say the 1860s. There were merchants in Portland that Perkins and Johnson owned a butcher shop in downtown Portland. They were cattlemen. They discovered this area probably for proximity. They had a big cattle ranch out here, total 1,400 acres. Then Simeon Reed and his wife bought the Reed Farm, or bought the old Robinson donation land claim, and they Reed was a business partner of William Ladd, and they owned a total of 17 commercial farms. One of them was right here. The site of, after they built a railroad station on the farm, completed it in 1871, headed west out of Beaverton. So they completed this station, and then they just brought in massive amounts of livestock, flooded livestock that he had obtained from traveling around throughout North America. And they proceeded to operate that farm for a period of about 20 years. Did a lot of scientific agricultural experimentation, and it was quite a internationally known destination. And just because of the amount of resources that were funneled there, and the type of development and improvements, and actually I would say that they did quite a bit toward adapting agricultural practices from other parts of the country to this area, a newly developing region. So that was significant from the Ladd and Reed Farm perspective. As a result of that, the town of Reedville, part of the, after the farm became part of the corporation, the town of Reedville was platted, and then that developed, and that's kind of got its own little history. The town itself, as well as the agricultural community around it, still advancements in agriculture, probably through the turn of mid-1900s. Then you go to, at the same time, Huber developed down here, intersection of 170th and TV Highway, and that actually, in the early 1900s, people who had a farm by what is now Farmington and Kinnaman kind of created a road that went through there to have access to the railroad. And also that was used by the Livermores, who had sawmills on Cooper Mountain, and they had a third sawmill that was located there. And they used that road as well to haul lumber in wagons to their building materials store, which is now the site of the Nona Amelia restaurant. And so there's no
3 minutes.
Okay, so then after that, Aloha developed, the little community of Aloha developed, and Huber, Aloha, kind of developed, that coincided with the era of the red electric interurban railway. And even though Aloha had been settled originally as a donation land claim, I would say that in about 100 years ago, after Buck's Market opened, and David Wheeler helped the Buck brothers build Buck's Market, and they opened a post office, and they opened a ticket office for the red electrics, and so people could basically, you had people who lived out here who commuted to Portland to go to work. And they'd get off and go into Buck's Market and buy their groceries and get their mail, and they were good to go. So, and this area essentially was operated that way with kind of little dotted little areas of a general store and maybe a couple of other little services to service the farming community, probably up until World War II, and TV Highway was built, and that TV Highway radically changed this area. And I think another thing that happened after that would have been the Columbus Day storm, because this area sustained a lot of damage, and some people never rebuilt after that. And so that kind of, the rest is sort of after it lost its agricultural heritage and became more of a suburban residential community.
Do you want to take one quick question? Who had their hand up first?
Well, I just wanted to see, Janel brought me this, let me put this up here. Does anybody know what this is from what you found out here?
What is it? Tell us.
Like a strain of cowhide, soapfish.
Now, that's what you skim the cream off of off of the bucket of milk with.
Anthony?
Harvey's Marina, what's its relationship to the Ladd Farm? Anything that you know?
It was Emily's feed store.
Yes, the property that it sits on at one point was part of the Reed Farm. And that after it went to the corporation and they platted the little town of Reedville, then Mr. Imlay, J.B. Imlay, purchased it and sort of built it up over a number of years.
The book will help you figure
Yeah, I
out
bought a copy of the book, I just
Yeah.
haven't had a chance to look
a whole lot of the streets and how things are named around here from, you find out from the here.
Ladd Acre School and that.
Yeah, a lot of them.
I'm going to jump in with the last. Well, how about some applause? This is amazing. I want you to point your book over at Anna so she can take a photo. And yes. I'm going to show the spot.
I have so many photos, great photos of her.
Okay.
Candid ones are so much better. Yeah.
This is really amazing when somebody takes the time to research a community, our community, and look at the past. And that even though we have a Washington County Historical Society, to have someone take the interest in an unincorporated community, for that I'm just really grateful. Thank you, Janelle. And I'm going to ask this open-ended question for you as I invite Lyles Garcia to come up here and give us a report. Well, she's running away from me, but I think that at Jan's bookstore, there's going to be a future book signing that, can you yell out the date where you're going to be at Jan's?
She's going on.
Okay. I would say look at the calendar, and maybe I'll try to post this to our Facebook page, but I think there's a future book signing at Jan's bookstore. Janelle?
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Is there a future signing of your book at Jan's bookstore?
Not at this time. There were two are on the agenda. July 27th, Hillsborough Costco, 11 to 2. Substation, Beaverton, first Friday, August 2nd.
Excellent.
And possibly Aloha Days.
7 to 5 to 6.
Okay, well, I strongly recommend you buy a copy because I was just mesmerized. The pictures, the narrative, the connect the dots between how the peoples and the street names have stories behind them. And for that, Janelle's given our community a great gift. And I just want to look you straight in the eye and say, thank you. It is so cool. And now I'd like to close the meeting down with someone who has done an amazing amount of community work. Mr. Lyles Garcia, could you give us an update on land use acts?
Thank you, Eric. The mailbox, as I've mentioned a few times, has been very quiet. In the area near across the street from Beaverton Costco, Nike is planning on developing that property more. They're going to put two office buildings and a parking structure. And within the last year, we had the applications and the approvals and everything for the Edwards Center, just straight south of me over here on Kenneman, and they would like to add 5 more dwellings on their property. And that's about it that's going on a lot right now. Any questions?
The area across, you said, across from Nike, is that a Walker Road?
Well, it's the whole Nike campus, from Walker to Jenkins to Murray to 158. The whole campus, they're going to add office building in the parking lot. And we had, just for more information, we had in Planning Commission a couple of meetings ago, or a few meetings ago, where that was zoned in the past for Secret Computer Company. You may have heard of that name. We had an ordinance and we lifted those plans and now Nike's going to put their own in. That's just background information. Any more questions?
Let's move on. Okay, folks, it's 9 o'clock on the dot. Great time to adjourn. See you in about a month. Bye.
Don't forget to donate money for snacks because the money comes out of Eric's pocket.
Thank you. Good night, folks. Dick, Anna, I hope you guys will be back for 30 seconds.